Interesting story playing out in British Columbia. Housing strata in the province is facing a backlash after passing a bylaw last week banning outdoor play. While the rule is actually not as uncommon as you might think, some critics say it's gone way too far. The ban includes activities such as bike riding and playing with chalk. For more, we've got Tony Gioventu joining us. He is the Executive Director of the Condominium Homeowners Association of BC. Tony, good to have you on CTV. Thanks for this today.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
What do you make of this story, first off?
It's not uncommon, actually. We find that across the province, there are almost 30,000 condo corporations in BC. And what we find is in townhouse complexes and bare land stratas, which look like conventional neighborhoods, the roadways are often a target for conflict. So they're like any other public roadway, only they provide entrance and access for the owners who live in those complexes and the residents. So, this is not an uncommon bylaw. How it's being applied might be a little excessive, but again, it may be a lifestyle choice for this community.
Right. And in terms of, let's say, parents of young kids, what options might they have, Tony, if they face this sort of bylaw?
Well, if you're in a townhouse complex, you probably have a backyard area that's going to be an exclusive common area for your family to be able to use and access. And there are probably neighborhood areas, playgrounds, schoolyards, those types of things. They're not always conveniently located that close, but those are pretty much the limits of the options that you would have if that's the type of community that you're in.
One of the things as well that I mentioned off the top was the use of chalk writing included in this ban. Any idea why that was part of it?
No, and that part we don't see very often. Generally, the reason we see these types of bylaws is because the condo corp and the strata councils are concerned about public safety. They're concerned about the safety of the children. They're concerned about access to the properties for emergency access. And of course, they're also concerned about building damage. If there's street hockey, basketball, baseball, there's often a fair amount of damage that's done to garage doors and buildings, so they try to avoid those at the same time. Chalk drawing is another level. And I suspect there's been probably an incident, but if you're chalk drawing in the middle of a street that's used for traffic, it's probably not the safest thing to be doing.
Right, of course. So this is primarily a safety issue as well. We know this, happened on the island, on Vancouver Island. What about the tenants? How does it work in terms of voting for something like this to happen, to pass a bylaw? Is it a simple majority? Is there sort of an appeal process? How does that work?
Well, in British Columbia, to pass a bylaw is actually a fairly extreme measure, and it's a significant vote. It's a 75% vote or a three-quarters vote that happens at a general meeting where all of the owners are entitled to attend and vote and express their opinion on this. So, in this complex, it's 18 units. If 16 people show up and vote, then it's three-quarters of the 16 have to actually vote in favor of this. The bylaw itself is not unreasonable in the sense that it has reasons for looking at public safety and property safety and the safety of the residents that are there. How the bylaw is enforced, or if it targets a very specific strata lot or person in an unfair way, could be a way of appealing it. In British Columbia, we have since 2016, we have a new justice system, which is an online system called the Civil Resolution Tribunal. So a tenant or an owner who is resident within the complex, either the tenant or the owner could file a claim or a complaint with the Civil Resolution Tribunal and challenge the validity of the bylaw if there are some concerns about that. But, I think everybody has to step back, and you have to remember a few things. The biggest being, when you live in a condo, whether it's in BC, if it's a duplex or 18 units or 100 units, your home is not your castle. And so you're pretty much bound to what the collective interest of the common owners say.
Interesting story. Tony, thank you for getting to our studio as well. You're out here in the eastern part of the country. We appreciate you taking the time.
I'm enjoying the hot summer out here. Thank you very much.